This is the Astrology and Tarot Show with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. This is your psychic astrology for the week starting Monday, January 12. First of all, do you have Aquarius factors in your birth chart? Expect a crossroads with a group. It could be social media. It could be a team or a club or another circle in January and February where you are offered the choice of sharing the control or pushing back against control. You need to find out what works, and it's probably self-control. And if you have Capricorn factors in your birth chart, the new moon enters Capricorn, the most ambitious sign of the zodiac, on January 18. Expect your green light with work, unpaid work, university or college around January 17, 18, 19. Your tarot this week can be decoded at jessicaadams.com. Aries, the Emperor. Taurus, the Three of Wands. Gemini, the Four of Pentacles. Cancer, Temperance. Leo, the Ten of Wands. Virgo, the Ace of Cups. Libra, the Two of Pentacles. Scorpio, the Devil. Sagittarius, the Ten of Pentacles. Capricorn, the Ace of Wands. Aquarius, the Hermit. And Pisces, the Three of Cups. Aries, well, you'll examine your old ambitions now as you take advantage of every gap to go to the next level or sideways in January and February. This cycle for you in the success and status sign of Capricorn will affect your professional direction, as you may already know, the pecking order at work, university, college, or with your unpaid role. I'll give you some dates. So 8th of January, 9th of January, 18th of January, and the 18th, the new moon in Capricorn. You can allow 24 hours either side of that for the world, time zone differences, and sleep cycles. But essentially, what we have here is a kind of a caravan pile-up in the area of your horoscope, which is all about your CV. It's all about your success and your status, your ambition, position, and mission. And Aries, it's very important to realize that this is not the past. You went through the most intense cycle of your life with Pluto in this sector of your chart between 2008 and 2025. Now you are home free from all of that. You still have politics with people to sort out, but it's not what it was. So don't automatically expect it to be so deeply difficult in terms of power and control issues. You're past all that now. And yet you did learn quite a lot about the way people are, about staff, employers, rivals, colleagues, and so on. Now we have these transits with Venus, the Sun, Mercury, which are all about discussion, news to take on board near the 18th, some very interesting new ideas and green lights near the 18th as well, which seems to be a bit of a turning point for you. Depending on your personal chart, you may be going into a new job, leaving the old one, dealing with a reshuffle all around you, departures and arrivals and so on. However, you know yourself best. And if you want more information on that, just pick a tarot card from my website, jessicaadams.com. Taurus, by February, reshuffles are everywhere in your profession, your university or college, or with your unpaid role in life, which might be at home. By February, the departures, the promotions, the appointments, the demotions will finally be complete. So welcome to Aquarius weather. This is pretty new in your life. You've only had 2 or 3 years to deal with the pretty new questions about how much power you have, how much control you have, and how you play it with the people around you. Pluto is in the background the whole time. And in fact, this planet is here for many years into the future. So there are lots of issues here about how to deal with people or organizations who try to take over, and also how to push back and resist and find your own power and your own control. Pluto is about transformation, Taurus. So throughout now and February, you may find yourself having to change to meet change, and that's okay. Basically, if you have to reconstruct aspects of your career, your university or college life, or your unpaid career, which may be caring for somebody, being a parent, and so on, well, you know, there are worse things that could happen to you. And you're a little bit used to this by now, Taurus. You're also quite stubborn. You stick your heels in the ground and you don't move. But what you're being told now is you are going to have to move in order to cope with what or who is being thrust upon you in the heavens. Out of all of this, by March will come a new direction for you professionally, academically, or with your unpaid role. And the balance of power will have changed. Depending on your personal chart, you may be seeing a departure, a merger, a promotion, or a deal. Gemini. This cycle with Chiron in Aries now, Neptune in Aries from late January, and Saturn in Aries from mid-February will alter the state of play in your social life, your social media, with your friends, and with any group project or team or club concept. You can see it now perhaps with invitations around those times or diary dates. So around January 26 and again from February 14. What we have here is a triple cycle in your zone of brotherhood and sisterhood, and that's pretty unusual for you. So you do have a lot to figure out about how to feed into the group. You are an outsider, but you are also very important to the group. That's true, and you probably already know it. Whether this is social media or whether it's something more organised, like a band, for example, or a club or a team. What you have to do now is think about April and May, because there will be a major decision then, signing on for more or maybe signing off and pulling back. It's up to you what you do. But I should have thought that in the third week of February, you will realise that with this friendship or with this group come quite heavily ring-fenced restrictions, because Saturn is the ringed planet. And Neptune as well is offering you an escape from the restrictions, but you still have to balance getting away from the real world with these people, with these friends or with this group, and accepting what is going to be a fairly tight situation in 26 and 27. So take your time, Gemini. This may be the Republican Party or it may be a band, as I've mentioned, but whatever you're doing is going to require quite a lot of forethought. Cancer. Uranus in Taurus in your zone of social media, social life, friends and groups is an ongoing revolution until April. You have been right across this since the year 2018. This cycle keeps coming backwards and forwards in your life, but here it is again, and it won't stop until Easter. So the question this week is, if you feel held back by a friend or by a group, then you have to question what you're going to do about that. At the same time, it's just as likely that you are going to find freedom through a group or through a friend. It really depends on what you've done with your birth chart. So you could be set free from a friend or group or set free by them. This cycle, although it ends in April, still has what it takes to change your life. In fact, you've seen big changes already since it began all those years ago, in terms of acquiring a group of people, allies, associates, fellow travellers, comrades, which becomes as important to you as anything else. But also perhaps questioning a friendship along the way over the last few years and wondering if you shouldn't be liberated from that friend as well, liberated from that group. All of this is swirling around in the ether this week, and you do have some choices to make. The most important thing about Uranus, which is about the revolution, is that you should be given the independence and the space that you need, but you also have to be aware of other people wanting theirs. Leo, you have some opportunities to take up involving religion, hypnosis, psychics, mediums, tarot, spirituality, meditation, or dreams. Jupiter in the 12th house rules everything that you do in private and alone. Right now, it may seem that the only way that you can get the growth that you seek is by looking other people out or by accepting that you're going to be by yourself for some of the time. Being alone makes the expansion happen, and it's a good thing. This is quite a rare Jupiter cycle too. You won't have it back for another 12 years. It might happen this week with one other person, like a confidant, a priest, a rabbi, a therapist, and so on. You'll hibernate now or withdraw. Sleep can do it, or dreams can do it, or you may start to meditate in a new way. Leo, this cycle will stop on June 30. And as I've mentioned, it won't be back for 12 years. So while Jupiter goes through Cancer, take advantage of what you're being offered. Nobody else will see or know what's going on. It all happens inside your head and also your soul. But that doesn't mean it's not remarkable in terms of the progress that it represents for you. Some of you may be drawn back to a childhood religion. Some of you may be questioning God altogether, capital G, and others will be on the path of psychology or self-help. But whatever's going on for you, you are entitled to shut the door if you need to, and also shut the world out a little bit. It works really well for you. Virgo. It looks as though you're experimenting yet again with different ways to experience foreigners, foreign countries, and foreign culture, foreign languages or accents, but nobody, including you, will know the final outcome of this radical change until April. Uranus in Taurus in your solar ninth house is like that, and it's not new. You've had it for some years now. You are used to the sudden change and sometimes the shock waves, and also the sense of freedom, being liberated by foreign people and places, or something that sounds foreign to your ears. This cycle stops at Easter, but until then, it's still there in your chart as a kind of a zigzag journey, and it may be the World Wide Web in translation, or it may be people who speak the same language as you, but with a completely different accent. The key to this transit is to remember that not only does it stop at Easter, while it is there, you have to understand that change does set people free, including yourself, but it can't be all one way. It can't be a one-way street, Virgo. You have to give independence as well as take it for yourself. This is the cycle that saw America win independence from Britain. Libra. You now have Uranus, the change planet, in Taurus, the money sign, the property sign, for the very last time. And it works instantly, like lightning or electricity. So between here and April, you need to be aware of that and understand that all these things which are supposed to be fixed and settled and certain, like a will, a legacy, a trust fund, a mortgage, and so on, the house, the apartment, the land, well, there's nothing fixed about it at all. This is quite clearly about a relative or a partner or somebody who plays that kind of role for you in your life. You can't buy independence, of course. You can't have freedom from someone or something, or freedom through someone or something by paying for it. But you do have to put a value on your life budget this week, as you have done so many times before. Hang a price tag on things like space, autonomy, room to move, and also maybe a helpful break with the past is very interesting for you to contemplate. You won't do it all now. Your chart says it will be by Easter. But think of this like a series of breaks with the past or radical changes for you that will enlighten you and show you what freedom actually costs. Scorpio. For the very last time, you will find that courtship, the bedroom, babies, infants, children, teenagers, and Generation Z are some of the avenues which have been escapes for you and escapes from the real world. Of course, while you're in there and you have been immersed for years, you don't know, but it's not real. It feels real, a bit like scuba diving feels real while you're doing it. But this Neptune transit does stop on January 26, which isn't that far away. So adjusting and adapting to that is important now. Maybe you've already been told at the end of January, or maybe towards the end of February, some event is going to happen. It may involve your son, your granddaughter, and so on. Even if you don't have that in your calendar, your horoscope is telling you that a long period of confusion is drawing to a close. Confused boundaries and muddle over where the line is drawn in the sand is going to stop in your astrological chart very, very soon. This week is a chance for you to get real about what and who was never really real all those years ago, and maybe as recently as last year, depending on your personal birth chart. Sometimes it takes a couple of bumps for you to come back down to earth. So the second one will be just after Valentine's Day, actually, when Saturn goes out of Pisces. You then have some karma to complete from 18 or 19 years ago with this person or with these people, but it will stop in the final week of July when the node changes signs. Sagittarius. As you go through this Capricorn and Cancer cycle, these two opposite signs, with Jupiter in Cancer, there is something so tempting about the world of money, business, valuables, charity, shares, and deals. No wonder you want as much as possible, as soon as possible. Jupiter's your ruling planet, after all. Jupiter's about more, bigger, going large. And perhaps you are now capable of leading the kind of financial or business life which is a genuine expansion for you. You'll soon know because of these events near these dates, the 8th of January, the 9th of January, the 18th of January. We have a new moon around the 18th, and you can allow 24 hours either side of those dates for different world time zones. But essentially what we have here is a chain of aspects in the sign of Capricorn, which for you is always about everything that you own, earn, or owe. There will be discussion, there will be paperwork, signatures, there may be some very new news around the 18th. But keep your eyes on the prize because you are in that kind of cycle when you can save or make a lot of money, Sagittarius. And that will be evident no later than June 30 for you. Capricorn. Well, your Neptune cycle is now on its last legs with 3 areas of your life. Siblings, close relatives like cousins, and secondly, the internet communication. Maybe they cross over, maybe they don't. They may be quite separate. But let's look at your brother, your sister, and or your cousin as you are coming out of Christmas and Thanksgiving, out of the new year, which is typically when you have to focus on these people. What's been happening is totally out of focus, though. It has been bent out of shape for many years. It has frequently been very difficult for you to see clearly or see straight. And yet, at the same time, you must be aware by now that as we go towards the end of January, the situation is going to stop. It's very common on this cycle for you to have 0 boundaries with a brother, sister, or cousin because they keep crossing the line, or you do. Neptune is notorious in astrology for producing situations where everything is all over the place all the time and everywhere. But the end of this cycle is really important and it's now in view. The final week of January brings it about. All that you really have to do after that is accept that you no longer have any restrictions on you, because as much as this cycle has been confused and confusing over many years, over the last year or two, you have also been dealing with walls and barriers for you with your brother, sister, or cousin, or for them. And that's been very difficult. You're ruled by Saturn, and so you are quite used to shouldering burdens and being a realist and accepting what you can't change and all the rest of it. But you wouldn't be human if you weren't breathing a sigh of relief after Valentine's Day, when all that stuff starts to go behind you. Capricorn, the last thing that you have to do is your karma, and that stops in the final week of July. 18 or 19 years ago, your horoscope reveals that a situation was set up with a sibling or cousin where you put things in motion karmically for yourself or them, or they did the same thing with you. The nodal cycle in your chart says that has to be signed off, and it will be signed off in late July, but until then you might find life a little bit stuck. Going back to the communication and internet side of this zone, you will find that any muddle over boundaries online, any confusion about who and what you're dealing with on the internet will also stop for whatever reason towards the end of January. Aquarius. Let's talk about your 12th house transits in the sign of Capricorn. You are in Capricorn weather now, so meditation, spirit guides, hypnosis, mediums, any treatment for anxiety or depression, sleep, religion, Buddhism, auras, chakras, and everything that's on the inside is now where the spotlight is in your life. This is very different from life as it was after 2008 and as late as 2024-25. Back then, it was extremely intense for you, and just being alone, Aquarius, was enough to completely transform you. This may have been the case in 2020 and 2021 for the obvious reason that COVID kept you at home alone. But it's important to remember that this is a completely new year, and Pluto's gone. He's no longer there in your 12th in Capricorn. So what you're doing now is, in a way, coming to terms with the past and understanding the impact that certain things had on you. And it may have been the religion that you were born into. It may have been angels. It may have been all sorts of things. Your soul, your spirit, your psychology. The sun will shed light. And there may be quite a lot of talking or maybe confiding in one other person that you can trust. There may be a fair amount of reading. And yet out of all of this, by the time you get to your birthday, Aquarius, you can feel as if you've gone right through it, but you have to be alone to do it. That's the other caveat with this cycle. Pisces. Well, we have a lot of action now in the sign of Capricorn, which rules the group. It rules the team, the circle, the community of allies and friends. It may be online, so it may be Substack, for example, or it may be in the real world. So it could be your old bridesmaids or the Freemasons. It really depends on who you are. But here we have a major new moon on the 18th of January. So on the 17th, 18th and 19th, you realise, well, this is a fresh start. And it's the fresh start that you deserve to have. The group, the network, the team, the club, whatever you want to call it, is waiting for a closer look from you, and also an overdue conversation, a question and answer session, which is showing up in your horoscope. We also have a major transit going on here with your image, your reputation, photographs of you, film of you, and so on. There are 2 stages here, January 26 and February 14, and you could allow a couple of days either side of those dates. But basically, all that you had to deal with about yourself, which confused you and confused other people, is now almost over. Neptune is your ruling planet, and Neptune in Pisces, your own sign, was going through your first house of image, reputation, and title for many years. So there has been a lot of muddle there about who you are, what your profile is, what we're going to call you, what name you go by, and so on. In other cases, the issue has been your face, how your face is on the internet in particular. When Neptune goes out of Pisces, you'll really feel it. And actually, after February 14, you're also going to feel the end of restrictions, which have been so heavy on you in the last year or two. In fact, you may not know yourself once those 2 cycles stop, Pisces, but there's just one more to go. You need to do some karma here about your image, and it will end in the final week of July. Until then, you may find life to be repetitive, sure, but at the same time, as you're going towards the end of January and the 3rd week of February, what you will discover is that looking in the mirror or looking up your name on Google, for example, or on social media, is no longer the story that it was in 2024 and 2025. And actually, lots of Pisceans would say that's a good thing. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you next week.